Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise Interviews. For over 2 years now, Franchise Interviews has been giving you an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship.
Through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising.
And our weekly franchise radio show, where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisors, franchisees, franchise authors, experts, and attorneys.
And our free franchise newsletter, which is a must-read for anyone looking to buy a franchise.
And don't forget to listen to our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919.
That's 610-905-2919. Are you one of those special people who are willing to go after your dreams and goals? Are you ready to fulfill that dream of owning your own business with the security of a proven brand? The opportunity to take control of your future and own a Rita's Italian Ice franchise is within your reach.
Rita's is seeking success-oriented individuals who are ready to make a change in their life, and Rita's offers unparalleled training and support to assure your success. And did you know the frozen treat industry is a recession-proof industry, and there are Rita's in 23 states currently with 540 stores open. Rita's Italian Ice has been around for 25 years and is listed as a top-performing franchise by the Wall Street Journal.
Now here's the really good part. Rita's Italian Ice is a unique and amazing taste treat. It's smoother than a snow cone, and it combines ice with real fresh fruit. The real fruit adds dramatically to the taste, and it comes in over 40 flavors. The ice and fruit are mixed on site and made fresh daily, and it is delicious.
You'll want to know more about this exciting and successful franchise opportunity. Go to www.ownaritas.com and get all your questions answered. That's www.ownaritas.com to take control of your dreams and future today. You don't want to wait any longer to be a part of this adventure. www.ownaritas.com.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Franchise Interviews, where we're asking the entrepreneur who owns one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, with my co-host, Don Johnson. And if you've ever dreamed about owning your own business, then you've come to the right place. Today we're meeting with Chad Kunkel and Chris DiMarchi, owners to the franchise Fish Window Cleaning. And since 1978, Fish Window Cleaning has been keeping windows clean. Fish Window Cleaning is now the world's largest window cleaning company, and Fish provides service to more than 100,000 commercial and residential customers nationwide. And that's coming up in segment 2 of Franchise Interviews. Our first segment today is being brought to you by Franchise Interviews, LLC, and Franchise Interviews gives you an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews, as well as get inside tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show on Blog Talk Radio, where each week you get to hear new interviews with franchisors, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and franchise attorneys. And our monthly franchise newsletter, which is a must-read for anyone looking to buy a franchise. And Don, welcome back to another edition of Franchise Interviews. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing fine, Marty. How about yourself?
Good, good. How was your Easter?
Oh, it was great. A lot of fun. I look forward to these holidays now with the kids having fun.
Great.
Yeah, we had them on 3 different Easter egg hunts.
Did you really?
Over the span of a couple of days. Yeah, we had a local, firehouse had one outside for the kids.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Put on by the town, and then we had one at our house, at their grandmother's house. So.
Oh, geez. And what's in these Easter eggs? Is it money or candy, or I guess I got to get up to date on these things.
Yeah, all those things. Sometimes they're empty, and they hand it in to get something, or you put coins in there, and candy, a couple jelly beans, stuff like that.
Oh, that's fantastic. Do they like candy, Don? Are they big candy eaters yet?
Yeah.
They are.
That's
something.
That's our selling tool to have them finish their meal and vegetables that night. They'll get like a couple bites of chocolate.
Yeah, well, you're at that great time, though. It's funny, I feel like I get to live these holidays through you, just kind of preparing, hearing about Christmas and Halloween and all that other stuff. And
right.
I guess, this should be an exciting year for you as well as they get a little older. They just appreciate this stuff even more,
Right. Well, next up is their birthday in a couple of months.
Oh, there you go.
That for a couple months now.
And they know when their birthday is at this point, don't they? I guess I imagine they know that.
Yeah.
That's something.
Yeah, we've been teaching them that the month and day.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, our last show, Don, we got to meet with Eric Kurjan, franchise owner to Six Disciplines. And in a time when many businesses are looking to cut costs and downsize teams, Eric, who's a franchise owner, is getting small business leaders to bring him into their team and work to align their mission and their vision. Interesting franchise opportunity. Any thoughts on last week?
Yeah, I think, put it this way. I plan on using this type of service soon for my company. Right. I just feel it's a service to really maximize your potential, get to the next level, because it's just fact that business owners are going to become complacent, and sometimes you just need kind of a kick in the rear end.
That's a good way to put it.
Be reminded of everything you have to do to to stay on that level and to grow and to have goals and so forth.
That's an interesting thought. Yeah, a lot of times, we've had several types of business coach franchises on the show up to this point. This is an interesting one. I think they kind of go a little bit beyond business coaching, Don, and they get into the whole, I guess, they're kind of like broader than training. I think what they do is, because this is the second time we've had Six Disciplines on the show, I think that they give people back their passion for their job. That's what I got out of it after listening to Six Disciplines. So I think it goes actually beyond business coaching.
Right.
We've seen a lot of growth in this type of industry, over the last several years, since we've been doing this. So
Six Disciplines is even a book, right?
It's even a book which I actually read. It's fantastic. It's just definitely up there with the top business books, and I think it's really a must-read for anyone considering going into their own business. It's tough being a small business owner, isn't it? You and I both know that.
Right.
It's a lot of times you're wearing many hats, and I think what they do as well is they teach you better habits for a job. I think a lot of times, as we've referenced Michael Gerber on many occasions, we get stuck working in our business and not on the business, and so I think Six Disciplines is great for really any type of small business, and also a very interesting franchise. I think we're going to see a lot of growth from them over the next several years. So just great concept. So it was nice to have Eric on the show.
Definitely.
What do we got going on today, Don, over the next week?
Today, like you mentioned earlier, fish window cleaning franchise, very successful. Chad Kunkel and Chris DeMarchi will be coming on the show, and there are a couple of franchisees who are doing quite well.
You've met them before, haven't you?
Yeah, just recently down at the IFA show in Orlando.
Right, that's fantastic. This is an interesting franchise opportunity for us, Don. I don't think we've ever had. You kind of forget after a while. We've been doing the show for almost 2 years now, but I don't think we've had this type of franchise on the show at this point. So I'm really excited to have Chad and Chris on the show today.
Hear about everything they went through. Definitely. Next week, I'm going to be meeting with my friend Glenn Franson from Massage Heights. Excited about this show.
That's great, isn't it? It's it was interesting as I started studying this industry. We kind of always do a little background information on the franchises we're going to be interviewing. And this is an interesting industry, isn't it? There's a lot of interesting things going on.
One real interesting thing here, it says, according to the U.S. Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics, between 2004 and 2014, the demand for licensed massage therapists will increase 18 to 26%.
I believe that. There's this school that I used to teach at, Don. Right next door, there was a massage therapy school, and that parking lot was packed. I mean, a lot of people interested in getting into that industry, so I believe that.
And my company, Diamond Financial Franchise Funding, we've been funding a few of these massage franchises, and they're growing so much because it's more now addressing health and wellness, not just a luxury. It says in recent years, therapeutic massage has become more popular than ever before. Once this ancient art was considered to be a luxury, but now in this new age of health and wellness, many more people are recognizing the benefits of massage to enhance their lifestyle. So
absolutely, yeah. And this is something we mentioned last week. Healthcare providers and medical insurance companies are beginning for the first time to recognize massage therapy as a legitimate treatment and preventative measures for several types of injuries and illnesses alike. That could change the whole industry, can't it? I mean, if you get the medical insurance companies in there.
Oh, yeah, big time. So they seem like they're positioned well. So we'll be talking to Glenn next week. We look forward to that. The week after that, April 10th, actually, that's the week of the franchise show.
That's right, yeah.
So
we're going to be there, so that's going to be exciting. It comes around so fast, doesn't it?
Right. That's April 11th to the 13th. Friday, Saturday, Sunday is that show at the Washington Convention Center.
That's right. You'll be there a day early, I guess.
Right. Setting up. That's a lot of fun.
That's good. That's good. That's like that must be a long week for you as well. I mean, I think it seems like it's fun for you being at the show, but it seems, I imagine, on Sunday, by Sunday night you're just coming home back to New Jersey. It's
yeah, no doubt it's hard work, but it's
long
great.
Week for you.
You see friends and suppliers and a lot of your franchise or clients.
Right.
And people wanting information on the show, might as well give it to them now.
Sure.
It's ifeinfo.com. And again, that's April 11th to the 13th at the Washington Convention Center. It's the 17th Annual International Franchise Expo, one of the biggest shows of the whole year.
It is. That's great. I'm looking forward to that. It's fantastic.
Also, the Franchise and Business Opportunities Expo has a show coming up, too. That's April 5th and 6th out of Detroit.
Those shows are interesting, too, aren't they, Don? They're a little, I guess you want to say, on a smaller scale than the IFE show. Again, the IFE, there's people really coming from all over the world, actually flying into Washington to meet some of these franchise opportunities. I mean, to me, they call it, I think we reference it, the Super Bowl of franchising. And this is it,
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. There are people from all over coming, whereas these other shows, there's still franchisors around the country. It's more regional, but nice, nice solid shows. People interested in this Detroit show, April 5th and 6th, and go to usfranchiseexpos.com.
That's right.
So that's the story on some shows coming up.
That's great. I had this is an article my mom actually sent me last week, Don. I know you're familiar with the retailer Costco.
Yes.
Which I guess they're big in the Northeast.
Right. We shop there, yeah.
Oh, do you really? Yeah. There's a magazine. It's called, I don't know if you've ever grabbed it. It's called the Costco Connection.
Yeah.
And on the front cover, they wrote an article called "The Pursuit of Happiness," with the question, "Is franchising right for you?" And I thought it was a fantastic article. They actually quoted a lot of franchisees, and I just wanted to kind of just read a couple of them. Here's a quote. It says, while by no means risk-free, franchising can offer a shortcut to business success. And that word shortcut, that kind of stood out for me, Don. You remember when we had George Native on the show? And he mentioned that franchising gives you the ability to start on third base.
Right.
I've never heard that example or that analogy before, but it makes a lot of sense, and it is certainly a shortcut to business success. Again, it's not for everybody, but just a couple things in the article. Here's some quotes. It says, when my job coach first suggested franchising, I laughed at him. I didn't know then that franchising is responsible for nearly one-third of our nation's gross domestic product, and that's by Geraldine Smythe of a franchise we're familiar with. It's called Abracadoodle. So I thought that was an interesting quote. Here's another quote from Michael Maritzin of Fetch Pet Care. It says, starting a business from scratch is so much work. True. I feel like the poster child for successful franchising, but I spent lots of time planning for this. So that's interesting. It sounds like he did his homework. Here is another quote from franchisees. Think things through carefully. Owning your own business is a huge lifestyle change. Even our dogs had to adjust. And this is from Edna and Brent Buxton. It doesn't say what franchise they actually joined. I think it was a fitness franchise. And here's another quote from Fitness Together by Rick Sikorsky. It says, I look for franchisees who are coachable. And that's so important, too, isn't it? You know, is you have to make sure that people are trainable and don't try to reinvent the wheel. I don't want robots or puppets, but I have to work with people who have their egos and their hip pocket and are willing to learn. And that's so important as well, too, you know. And it was interesting. It was actually, they interviewed, you remember Nancy Leonard, franchise attorney.
Right.
So I just thought it was a great article. Again, it's called The Pursuit of Happiness. I guess you can kind of do a Google search. It's called The Costco Connection. And it was such an informative article on franchising. I think they did a great job. It's too long to kind of read the whole article, but thanks, Mom, for sending that article. That was a good one. You know, we see a lot of these articles, and just very interesting.
That is very interesting. Yeah,
I know you had some interesting stuff this week as well.
Yeah, here's something. I guess keeping it in the family. Just like I got this from my brother-in-law.
There you go.
Yeah, this was from Business Week, and it says, is it time to buy a franchise? Mm-hmm. When the economy slumps, franchising tends to become more popular. Here's what to know about the industry before buying in. It's by John Tuzzi. It says, Marty, think buying a franchise means you get the benefits of owning a business without the risk of business failure? Think again. Without proper due diligence, franchisees can find themselves stuck in bad business models, chained to unfavorable contracts, or victims of fraud. Although the industry's reputation has improved in recent years, franchising isn't necessarily safer than starting a new business. Now, reading this article, I disagree, with some of this, but it's an article that really goes over offers some nice practical advice.
Yeah, I agree with that, Don. It is interesting. Again, you and I, the show is very pro-franchising, but it's good to talk about, the good and the bad as well. I think one of the things I got from that paragraph that you read, is the whole due diligence process as well. I think, you and I emphasize every show, how much work this actually is. If you decide you want to buy a franchise and you decide what franchise you're going to buy in like a week or 2 weeks period of time, that's just not enough time. We've gone as far as comparing this whole thing to a marriage. And it's a lot of homework, and, a lot of the experts we've had on the show over the last year and a half, we'll tell you that. Some even go as far as the woman who wrote the book, the Franchise Times book. I think she said you should call like 60 franchisees within a system, to make sure you're getting a true response, So
and I talk to people every day who take up to a year or two before they choose a franchise.
I totally agree. So this is a lot of work. This isn't something that you make a decision overnight, and you want to make sure that there's a match. That's interesting.
It says economic slumps tend to boost the industry as unemployed workers seek to start businesses with the perceived safety of established systems.
Right.
The International Franchise Association, the industry's largest trade group, estimates there are about 3,000 franchise systems in the U.S. today. The concepts range well beyond fast food, with franchises in industries as diverse as pet care and tutoring services. In 2005, franchise businesses employed 11 million people, more than 8% of private sector workers, and generated 4.4% of U.S. economic output, according to a report by PricewaterhouseCoopers commissioned by the IFA.
Right.
John Reynolds, president of the IFA's research arm, expected growth in franchising output and unemployment to continue for the next several years. Where should you start if you are new to franchising? Aspiring franchisees need to think more like investors than entrepreneurs to thoroughly vet any opportunity before buying, franchise experts say.
Right.
The franchising industry represents that franchising is a safe and secure path to business ownership, says Robert Pervin Jr., head of Trade Group American Association of Franchisees and Dealers and the author of Franchise Fraud, How to Protect Yourself Before and After You Invest. In today's marketplace, franchising is almost never business ownership. It is very often not a safe and secure path. So I guess he's saying, like what we always say, it's not always a definite that you're going to be successful in franchising. You got to make sure you're with the right system, do your diligence, find the right fit for yourself.
Sure, find the right location. All these things are very,
right.
very important, So yeah, I mean, there's no 100% guarantee that any of this is going to work. There's a lot of different variables involved. When a franchise does fail, Don, you kind of look at it, you say, why did it fail? For the reasons that you simply mentioned, is
right.
Did you have the right location? Maybe just franchising wasn't for you. Maybe you didn't follow the system,
Right.
So that's always the first question I think that you and I kind of ask, someone if they're interested in buying a franchise is, do you actually know what franchising is? Because believe it or not, there's lots of people that just don't get it, what it's all about, and so I think that's one of the very first questions is to just understand what franchising actually is.
I mean, the next sentence, he explains that buying a franchise means buying a license to operate someone else's business for the period of the contract.
Mm-hmm.
He goes on to say prospective franchisees should first check whether a system has an independent franchisee association that the company recognizes. These organizations let franchisees share information and negotiating power and legal resources. If the franchisor doesn't recognize an independent association, Pervin says buyers should keep looking. Although state governments and the Federal Trade Commission require franchisors to disclose information about their offerings, franchisors do not have to register with any federal agency the way publicly traded companies must with the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Right.
You can get disclosure documents from franchisors after you express interest and get initial approval, and that, of course, is the UFOC, now called the FDD. They changed the name on it.
That's correct, yeah. And we're actually going to have, I don't even think I mentioned this to you, towards the end of, I think it's April, Nancy Leonard is going to come back on the show, and she's going to talk about some of these changes going on with the UFOC, now called the FDD.
Right.
So it just sounds like the biggest change is there's more information with the FDD compared to the UFOC, I guess. We'll have to talk to Nancy more about that.
Right.
But,
a few more interesting sentences in this article. Disclosure documents also must contain information on other franchisees, including those who have left the system. Talking to these franchisees is an essential part of due diligence, says Tom Pittigoff, a franchise attorney in White Plains, New York. If you talk to nobody else, talk to the ones who left the system and find out why. It's a very good point.
Sure, yeah. And once again, you're going to have to do your due diligence there. You're going to have to sometimes track these people down, and that's going to take a lot of work as well. So, this is all, everything we've mentioned, up to this point. I mean, it's all a lot of work. It's very, very serious.
And people who left the system, it can simply be something like retirement, so it's good to do your homework.
Could be a lot of reasons why, too, Don. A lot of people don't ask. They just assume that, it didn't work, and why didn't it work? Well, it could have been a lot of things. Well, maybe the person got sick. Who knows? You know, I mean, it could have been a death. I mean, you just don't know these things. So this is where, research certainly comes in handy. So it's kind of a more harsh article, I guess, we've read on the show on franchising. But I think it's good to, look at both sides of the coin, and kind of address these different things. But
next section says, look at the bottom line. You should also make sure that the company you're buying into is financially strong and able to sustain its growth. The franchisor's financial statements must be in the offering documents, and Pittigoff says you should get an accountant to review them. We're always very pro services, hiring professionals. Choosing an established franchise like McDonald's can reduce your risk, though it will cost more than an unproven one. But don't mistake a brand name for a sound investment. Prominent brands falter, sometimes because they expand too quickly. So that's all part of the due diligence. You should hire a lawyer who specializes in franchising to help you steer clear of a bad investment or a harmful contract, according to Les Stewart, franchise consultant and industry watchdog who once lost his personal savings on a failed lawn care franchise. Interesting.
That is interesting.
Aspiring franchisees should expect to take 6 months to vet the opportunity and to spend 5 to 10% of their investment on legal fees, Stewart says. If you're not, then you're unnecessarily gambling.
I totally agree with that. Absolutely. I think it's so important to not just hire an attorney, but a franchise attorney. And even when you're talking about an accountant, I guess you don't have to be a franchise accountant, but somebody who knows how to explain the financial information. I think that is so important.
And the article just finishes up just saying get things in writing. If promises are made, just make sure it's in writing for protection, and that's where an attorney comes in too. Absolutely.
And an attorney is a must, Sounds like this gentleman listens to our show, who wrote the article. But that's good. Okay. Well, anyway, we got a great show today, Don. We're meeting with Chad Kunkel and Chris DeMarchi, owners to the franchise Fish Window Cleaning. And since 1978, they've been around a while, Fish Window Cleaning has made keeping these windows clean. Fish Window Cleaning is now the world's largest window cleaning company. I was unaware of that. And will always treat every customer as though they're their only customer. I like that business philosophy. I think that's very important. And Fish provides service to more than 100,000 commercial and residential customers nationwide. So we're happy to welcome Chad and Chris to the show today. Hey, Chad and Chris, good morning. How you guys doing today?
Good morning.
Good.
Doing good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Chad and Chris, joining us is my co-host, Don Johnson, and Don has actually had the pleasure of meeting both you guys. I think it was in California, wasn't it, Don?
Yeah. Hey, guys. Appreciate you coming on the show. It was kind of tough leaving Orlando, that nice 70-degree and sunny weather. That was pretty nice, huh, for a few days?
Oh, yeah. Well, we had to go back to sunny Southern California.
Oh, there you go. That's a tough life, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Well, it sounds like you guys answered my first question. I was going to ask, where are you guys calling from today?
Anaheim, California.
Ah, nice. Very nice. And Chad and Chris, I guess, it could be in either order. What were you guys doing before coming together and joining Fish Window Cleaning franchise opportunity?
We actually both worked for the same company. So,
you did? Oh, interesting.
We both worked for Enterprise Rent-A-Car.
Oh, okay.
And we were in management and sales with them.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know if you guys know much about that company, but very good company for learning about business, learning how to run an operation. And so we learned a lot working for them that we were able to apply here.
That's interesting.
So just coincidence? Them being a franchise, you wanted to go into franchising, or just so happens Fish was a franchise too?
No, Enterprise Rent-A-Car is not a franchise.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
they're
independently owned, privately held.
Right.
But yeah, we both worked for them, and even though Chad and I never worked together at Enterprise,
right,
we knew of each other, and we knew that both had good numbers, good sales, go-getters, and so that's what kind of brought us together.
Right.
Was the fact that we both had the same goals.
Right.
And we just figured, it was a good time to apply our skills and put money in our own pockets.
Yeah.
That's
one thing about Enterprise is when you're in management, you know all the numbers. I mean, you're seeing how much each branch location is making in profit for the company in each region, and you see all those numbers month after month, and you're like, man, I wish I was doing this for myself.
I can only imagine. Yeah, they are an excellent company. I've had a friend who actually worked for them, and he spoke very highly of the training program at Enterprise. And I just returned my car to Enterprise a couple of days ago. I rent the car from them.
People ask us quite a bit because we're fairly young as far as franchise owners. We're 36, and Chad's 32.
Right.
And people often ask us, do you wish you started this, when you were 22?
Right.
And the simple fact is, the answer is no, because, I think it takes a little bit of level of maturity to run a business, a little bit of managing stress, obviously, and what Enterprise taught us on how to run a business was pretty invaluable on what we apply to Fish Window Cleaning.
That's interesting.
Yeah. We wish we had those years under our belt in the business, but at the same time, we know we wouldn't be as effective as we are.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, it sounded like it was the right time, because you're right, that is so important to build up that experience. Myself being in financing, I have people in their mid-20s calling, trying to get a loan, and lenders aren't comfortable. They just simply haven't had that track record with experience in working out there.
Right, and then, Fish Window Cleaning, offering you a business-in-a-box solution, and you now can apply all those business skills. It just makes the two come together very nicely, and it's hard to fail.
So it's interesting that you chose a partnership. A lot of times people don't want to go that route, but you probably had a game plan. I know with partnerships you can just grow the company much bigger and quicker.
You can, and Chad said it a couple months ago when we were talking. We have to treat the partnership like a marriage. Because if you treat it any other way, if you don't have the same goals, if you don't have long-term goals, it's just not going to work. And we have a lot of partnerships call us and say, how are you doing it, and the simple thing is we, you have to work at it, but you keep the same goals in mind.
That's interesting.
Because partnerships fail, and, that was obviously a concern of ours when we first, paired up, like, hey, are we going to be able to do this together?
Right.
And, knock on wood, it's been awesome, and I think we've gotten through the tough times. I think, we have the same goals and the same ideas and the same outlooks and the same philosophy on servicing customers, collecting ARs, dealing with people, so it really makes it easy.
I was pretty impressed how quickly you guys became top franchisees in the whole fish window system. I guess it was this organization and you guys knowing right from the start what your goals were and everything. I guess helped of course lead.
Yeah,
to that.
and we from the beginning we've had a pretty clear goals laid out, and our individual job descriptions within the company have been pretty clearly defined, and we're both doing what we're supposed to be doing, and when we started the business, we didn't leave ourselves kind of an out. We weren't kind of moonlighting at our old jobs or kind of keeping consulting deals or, kind of hedging our bets. We jumped in both feet, head first and said, we got to make this happen, and we got to make it happen quick because we have families to provide for.
There's a lot of motivation there, yeah.
Absolutely.
Talk about, guys, the history of fish window cleaning.
Well, been around since 1978. Mike Merrick is the founder of the company, and he started his own window cleaning company in 1978. He was previously in the banking industry, and he operated just as a sole proprietor of the fish window cleaning in St. Louis for about 20 years, I guess.
Yeah,
and it's
close to.
Been franchising now for right at 10 years. And there are, I believe, about 165 franchises now across the country.
With about 220 locations.
That's something. I like his philosophy, too, guys. I was reading about Mike. He says he made each customer feel as though they were the only customer, and I thought that was just an interesting philosophy. And you guys actually had it on your website. I don't know if you saw this, Don. It was interesting. They call it, was it fish philosophies, guys?
Yeah. They play off the fish words there quite a bit.
I thought it was very clever. Yeah, that was but it's just great to.
Yeah, the nice thing is, when we first looked at the fish window cleaning, and looked at multiple businesses to go into, we kind of kept pushing fish aside.
Right.
Because we were like, well, wait a minute, we're college graduates. It's window cleaning. What are we doing here,
Right.
But we had a pretty clear-cut goal and understanding of what type of business that we wanted to get into.
We had a list of criteria that we wanted to see, a business meet as many as possible.
Right.
And this kept getting pushed away because, it's not glamorous. It's, you kind of, like, it seems like pretty much anybody could do this.
Right.
But they've kind of created a nice little niche because a lot of your competition isn't running a professional quality business like you are.
Right.
So you're a step above.
And really no business is simple, but it just seems like it's for the most part, kind of a simple business when you think about it, with so much emphasis on service, of course, being the big thing. But I guess that was another big reason why you chose it, the simpleness of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One of our criteria was a simple idea. Another one was residual income. You make the sale one time, and you can get multiple services on it.
Right.
That was big for us. And then you cold call a sub shop, and they go with you once a month, and then they end up opening another location a year later, and you get that location. It just kind of grows on itself. The residual income, the simple idea, no nights and weekends.
Right.
That's very attractive, yeah.
We
wanted something also that wasn't, is not a medical practice where the business is dependent on the doctor,
Right.
Something that's not dependent on our specific skills to go on, something that we could, if we wanted to, down the road, step away from and have somebody run and, be able to train somebody to operate it efficiently and properly. So it just met, and something that technology and the internet couldn't wipe out.
That was big for us.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
And
you don't want to sink your life savings into a business, and then something develops on the internet where nobody needs it anymore. Like a travel agent maybe, or something like that. Technology changes so quickly. It's sometimes it's a little bit difficult to keep up.
So it seems like, guys, Fish Window met a lot of your personal criteria you're looking for in a franchise and business startup. But what was it that impressed you about Fish Window and their system?
When we went to our discovery day with Fish, that was very impressive to me, because the Fish family is truly that. Like, they're bringing you into their family, and they care about you and what you're trying to do, and they will go leaps and bounds above and beyond to make sure that your business succeeds.
Right.
I mean, Mike personally, gets upset and angry when franchises, are not following the plan and doing well, because it's all laid out there for you to just go grab it. Just don't make excuses and go get it.
Right.
That's interesting. It sounds like your annual meetings too, guys. I was reading somewhere that it sounds like it's more like a family reunion. So you can say,
It is. They're fantastic.
It is great. I mean, with 165 franchises, we don't intimately know every franchisee, but it's great. We look forward to seeing. Oh man, we're going to see the Pierces. We're going to see Randy Cross. We're going to see. We know all these franchises that over the last 5 years we've developed good friendships with, and there's a camaraderie and a kind of a family feeling there, because everyone's in the same boat.
That's fantastic.
Trying to build the brand together and make brand recognition and make the, because the better our brand. Obviously, we want each of our individual businesses to be as good as possible, but we kind of all feel like we're building the brand together and building name recognition across the country, so that our business is more powerful.
That's interesting.
That's a great atmosphere to have something like that. Family atmosphere. Everyone's in it together. You're growing the company. Because what's the, I guess we'll talk about this soon, but just the potential of Fish itself on how many additional franchisees can have around the country for this type of service. Because this is something people simply don't want to do.
Right. Exactly. And when we were, when we got into it, we were the third franchise in California.
Yeah.
And now I think they just signed number 25.
So that didn't worry you. I mean, that was a little bit of a risk right there. Only a couple other in California. I guess you saw other franchisees in other states successful. That didn't worry you as much?
No, I mean, the prospect of opening, a window cleaning business in Orange County, California, it was very exciting to us. I mean, if you're going to open, a business that services, other businesses and homes that are, a little bit, a lot of the businesses are higher line businesses. They want to keep their stores looking nice, have a good reputation with the customers, and homes out here. You have your good and bad areas, but there's a lot of beautiful homes out here, and homes that are 2- and 3-story that people just can't do on their own, even if they wanted to, because of the size and stuff. So the territory that we purchased, we also felt really fit the mold of having a successful business out here. So
wow.
It is interesting. I was just thinking, guys, as you guys were talking, it's like we have a skylight in our home, and there's a spot on it I still have not yet cleaned because I just can't get to it, So it's just...
Well, Marty, did you hear their territory is Southern California?
There you go.
We have fish people all over.
Absolutely. You think of the market potential, though, and it's really incredible,
Well, and that's just, that's it. That spot, it's, you could call us out and we can come clean it. And the thing is the windows get dirty again a month later, a quarter later.
Right. It really is very exciting. And the backgrounds, too, Chad and Chris, it sounds like, from the other franchisees that you guys get to meet, I've reading that some of them are assistant professors and stockbrokers. One was a vice president of marketing for Cracker Barrel. I mean, these are people with very diverse backgrounds. It's not somebody who just wanted to get into window cleaning.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, the amount of people that had any kind of experience in the industry of window cleaning, I don't know that there's any. I mean, a lot of these people, they're just coming from, like for us, we were just tired of the grind, working 60, 65 hours a week, not being able to spend time with family. Chris, he had a daughter that he never got to see, and I had already told my wife that if I'm working this much, I don't want to have kids.
Sure.
And now I have 3.
And that was very common at Enterprise. I know from, my friend working for the company, you guys put some heavy hours into that company,
Heavy hours. And
that's what I understand, the weekends and so it's tough to have a family life working for Enterprise, which is why I think they hire a lot younger people. Mm-hmm. I notice anyway.
Right. And, the dream is, you move up in the company, and I was a district manager overseeing several offices, and I was still putting in the same hours.
I imagine.
And it was like, come on, I was leaving before my daughter got up, and I was getting home when she was going to bed.
Exactly.
And that wasn't what I visualized as being a parent was all about.
Sure, absolutely.
So that was a big reason for, okay, where can we apply our talents elsewhere?
That's one of the big things, with us. We feel like we have a successful business. We're continuing to grow. But our quality of life, whether or not we're making more money, which we are, our quality of life is far and above, what we could have had working, for Enterprise or most other companies for that matter.
That's great. And I think that's why the founders, Mike, started the company as well, too, right? I guess his background was in banking, and he just saw this niche in the market, and I guess his life changed significantly after getting into this whole thing, so.
Well, you guys did it correctly. It was all very well thought out.
Right.
Thinking of things like, hey, I would like to just work during the week and have the weekends off, and I'd have to work into the nighttime, because you're right, in the corporate world, coming out of college, I was in the hotel industry. I was working all the time. It was crazy. You start thinking about down the line, what I want to be doing 20 years from now, and usually the American dream is kind of controlling your own destiny, and that's what you guys are doing.
Right. Working in the hotel industry, you were probably working nights and weekends and everything else. Where
birthdays, holidays, it was
our first 2 years, we pretty much got in the office about 6:30 in the morning. We were out by 9, and we were out cold calling, street bidding every day for roughly 3 to 4 hours a day.
Right.
We would do that for the first 2 years until we grew our business, and then we started backing down our hours a little bit more. And now our schedule is 6:30 in the morning till roughly we start heading home around 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
That's fantastic.
See, and this is exactly why I wanted to have you guys on the show when I met you down in Orlando for people listening.
Right.
Because Marty and I are always talking about investing in a franchise. You got to do your homework, but it's hard work.
Oh,
and you got to put in the time, and
you have to.
Yeah.
You have to, and then the rewards come later, because now it's 5 years later, and we work Monday through Thursday till 2 o'clock, and then Fridays we come in till about 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. We just come in for a couple hours just to make sure next week's all lined up, and then we're done. We go home. We're off.
Anybody can do it. You just have to have the passion. You got to work hard, follow the system, and now look at the position you guys are in.
Right. And that's you said it as simple as it is. You follow the system that they put in place as a franchise, and the rewards will come later. But you have to bear down. You can't make any excuses early on.
Right.
Put your back against the wall and make it happen.
Absolutely.
And then just a quick question. I'm interested. How did you hear about Fish Window? Marty and I would be down at the International Franchise Show in D.C. and with the internet and magazines and everything on how to investigate a franchise. How did you guys find out about Fish?
Originally, it was through looking on the internet, finding FranChoice.
Right.
And FranChoice gave us some recommendations, and we looked at hundreds of different businesses, whether it was a franchise or buying an existing or starting our own or anything else. And when FranChoice bought Fish to us, it sat there for a couple months on the side of the desk.
Right, kept going back to it. FranChoice, one of the leading franchise consulting companies. We're very high on people utilizing franchise consultants. It seems like that worked for you guys.
Well, they pretty much break down what kind of person you are, what kind of activities you're interested in. Are you good at sales? Are you not good at sales? What kind of environments are you comfortable in?
Right.
And that helped narrow the business search down, and made it an easier choice for Fish.
Right, and I think there's when you talk about franchises, obviously you have the business in a box. Why would you fail? I think, fish window cleaning franchises that have not been successful have been those franchisees that, they didn't do good at sales. They didn't like sales. They didn't like some important aspects of the business that would make them successful. And I think you have to match yourself up with a business. That kind of person, maybe they'd be great at running a McDonald's, because all you do is open your doors, and then you take care of the customer. Well, we have to go get our customers. They don't come to us. So you have to look at the kind of business that you're opening and really be true to yourself and know, hey, am I going to be okay, out pounding the pavement and, drumming up business,
Absolutely.
Is this a franchise where you can be successful without having sales experience, detail?
The answer to that, I believe, is no. I think you need to have some. We have a lot of people call us and ask us that question that are interested in buying the franchise.
Right.
Well, can I hire a sales guy? Well, you can, but that really eats into your bottom line early.
Right.
Really. I mean, yes, you can hire a sales guy, but, the three things that make it successful are sales, customer service, being able to deal and handle customer service issues, and employee retention or controlling your employees, whether it's an office manager or a sales guy. You have to be able to, if it's your sales guy and you don't know how to do sales, well, how are you going to teach or train or talk to your sales guy?
Right. I mean, I would say you have to have an aptitude for sales. I wouldn't say you have to have experience in sales because really it's an easy sell.
Right.
Sounds like it, right.
It's, hey, everyone needs their windows cleaned. You're either going to do it or you're going to have somebody else do it.
Right.
Just be comfortable with people, which
sometimes
people aren't.
So it's not like you have to be smooth talking, salesperson. You just have to be willing to go out and do it. And there are just people out there that aren't comfortable with that. Sure. They don't want to have the rejection. They don't want to have the, why did you just walk into my store? Who are you? And people that can't kind of separate, hey, I'm not, this rejection here doesn't identify who I am. I'm just selling a product here, and either you need it or you don't, or maybe you have somebody else providing that service for you that you're happy with.
Right.
But there's a lot of people that kind of take that on personally on themselves, and then that gets very grinding.
It just reminds me, Marty, of Warren Greshus. This is the perfect business where it's really a numbers game. Warren Greshus is a top salesman, motivational speaker, guys. You should maybe go back and listen to a prior show, an archive we did. Someone who started in the New York Garment District at a young age, was managing a whole bunch of stuff, but he's written a book called The Best Damn Sales Book Ever is the title, right, Marty?
It is, yeah. It's a fantastic book for people who don't have a background in sales or, who want to go. He basically says anyone can be a successful salesperson. It is a numbers game, like you were saying.
And that's true.
Like that person who you went into the store and got rejection, and that person may be unhappy, taking it personal, but hey, I'm sure you hand the brochure and they keep it, and maybe a few months later, something, I think I do need that service. So that sale might work out. You just got to get out there. It's a numbers game.
Well, and we've had managers at stores that have been just rude, and you walk out and you're like, man, why do people have to be like that?
Right.
And then months later, we get a call and hey, I found your business card or your brochure. I'm a new manager here. I don't know if we've used you in the past, but we do need our windows cleaned. And you're like, that's the ultimate revenge,
That's fantastic.
And that's part of what you're investing with the franchise system, getting that marketing and advertising program, having all the right materials and printed sales.
It really allows you to hit the ground running. You know? I mean, like you said, if there is a simple business, this is a pretty simple business, But they provide you with the software that you need to run your business properly, all the brochures, the forms, everything is kind of right there for you, so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's right there.
Right.
And I think that's another reason why some people aren't successful with franchises is they're trying to reinvent the wheel. Well, if they wanted to do that, then it should have just opened a business on their own. You either decide that the franchise that you're looking at is a good product and it will be effective and you're going to use it, or you don't and you go on your own. But you don't buy a franchise and then try and redo their system, because then what's the point?
Very well said.
Sure, absolutely. One of the questions we like to ask is, either one can go first, is what's the most interesting thing that's happened to you since becoming a fish window cleaning franchisee, Chad or Chris? Tough question.
Did a shop owner ever throw anything at you if they weren't interested in the service?
We always get good responses to that question, by the way.
Well, I don't know. I think the one that just kind of jumped out at me was, and this kind of goes along with the whole employee screening and that type of thing. I mean, we had a couple years ago, we're looking to hire kind of a lead window cleaner, somebody that we could work into an operations manager position, and this guy came in and he was, he had all the right verbiage, you know, he talked the talk, and it really sounded like he had been in the industry for a long time, and, you know, we're like, man, we really stumbled upon a gem here, you know. the next deal is we're going to meet him out on a job the next morning. Just, hey, let's take a look at your work, see how you clean windows, and then you'll be off and running, because I'm sure you've got years of experience. This guy said he had like 10 years of experience, and he had all this
and his application
on his resume and all these companies, and everything sounded so great. Well, he gets up to, well, first of all, he looked like when he was putting on his equipment, you know, with his bucket on a belt and, you know, mops and squeegees and things like that. You know, he's kind of flipping it over and kind of looking at it like, what am I supposed to do with this? And we're like, it's a little weird, you know, and you know, if you've seen, you know, there's kind of a swirling, you know, technique.
Right.
You know, you can clean the whole piece of glass without lifting the squeegee. And oh man, this guy was a mess.
Did he think somebody
clearly had never cleaned a window in his life, you know? And we're like,
funny.
Did he look around see if anybody, you know, was videotaping?
It would have been great.
I wish we had.
Yeah, it could have been a lot of money on that one.
It would have been great. And here I'm trying to be the cool guy, saying, "Hey, man, look, it's okay. It's okay.
Right.
We'll teach you."
Right.
But at this point,
be honest with us.
He was, just be honest with us, you know.
Right.
And at this point, he was so embarrassed
and so flustered.
So funny.
That next thing I know, he's got his equipment laying by one of our trucks, and he's driving off in his car.
Oh my God! That's
we kind of went around the corner, came back, and he was gone.
Oh,
never to
so
be
funny.
heard or seen from again. So.
You didn't think of getting your franchise fees back after that, did you?
Yeah, we've had some crazy stuff. That's definitely
great.
a good moment, though.
Yeah,
great.
And how's training, guys? Talk about that a little bit for new franchisees.
Training is good, and again, being part of the franchise helps out. In fact, they just came out with a new training program where you can literally sit down a guy who has zero experience and sit him in front of a computer for 8 half-hour sessions to watch and take tests, and really by the end of it, and maybe a few hours on glass, they could be cleaning windows.
But you guys talking about our training for the franchise system, or?
Well, through corporate, you know what you guys went through training.
Yeah, training is 2 weeks back in St. Louis at the corporate headquarters. Right. And they give you a pre-opening checklist, you know, all the stuff that you need to get handled and get done, get your corporation set up, get your office, do this, do that. Everything, you know, should be pretty much lined up by the time you go to your training, and then you have 2 weeks out in St. Louis where you learn the computer program, the software, learn how to, you know, do sales. They take you out and you cold call and do some sales in the area there that you're in. They do show you some hands-on window cleaning. Obviously, they don't want the owners to be doing a lot of window cleaning, but in order to train and in order to be able to pick up jobs, if you know, or even go fix complaints and things like that, you know, obviously we need a good understanding of the job process itself. And so there's pretty much everything from A to Z, and they really pack a lot in the 2 weeks. You know, when we left, we're thinking 2 whole weeks, you know, for window cleaning, right. You know. But man, it was good, and you know, it could have been longer, you know, because they really were trying to, you know, hurry up some topics and, you know, speed through some things, because they're really trying to get you well equipped by the time you hit your territory.
Right.
But the day we came back, we were comfortable and ready. I mean, we came back the next day. We opened up our office and made our first sale in the morning.
That's That's fantastic.
And then they sent somebody out. We had 1 week in between when we got back from St. Louis and then our technical grand opening, and they actually sent a district manager out to our territory to spend, I think it was 3 or 4 days in our territory, make sure we're up to speed, going out and doing some sales, kind of helping get a head start on landing some accounts and answering any questions in the office and how to set things up. And
that guy didn't warn you about the fraud of somebody applying for a job?
Yeah, I mean we've seen it time and time again, but that was just the most significant. We do wish we had that on tape, though.
Yeah. How much does Fish help as far as national accounts, bringing business to you guys? Is that something that they assist with?
Yes. Yeah. There's a national sales program as far as, Fish corporate office going directly to companies and trying to land accounts, chain stores, regional and national accounts, things like that. I
imagine that was a nice selling point, too, on why you invested with Fish.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it's kind of a twofold thing. We have companies that we go after directly, and then there are also companies that employ the services of a national maintenance company.
Right.
So you have a national chain store like a Pottery Barn, Williams-Sonoma, Pacific Sunwear, whatever it might be, and they use a company like Coast to Coast Maintenance or Nest, that handles all of their maintenance for their stores across the country. And they just sub out these different services in different areas. And signing on with Fish, we have, 6 or 7 of these national maintenance companies that we're automatically preferred vendors for when you open your doors.
Right.
So that doesn't mean that right when you open your doors you're going to get all this business, because obviously somebody is servicing these stores currently. But it puts you in a good position. You're acquainted with them. They know automatically when you open your doors, hey, you're fully licensed, bonded, and insured.
Right.
And you good training, and you're running a professional business just by the fact that you're operating a Fish window cleaning. So the screening process is much simpler. And then when there is an opportunity, new stores open, or the current company drops the ball, then we got a chance to get the call on that. And we have a lot of business in our territory through the national maintenance companies. So.
Yeah, just one company alone for the month of April just faxed us their work orders, and we just have over 400 work orders for the month of April out of one national maintenance company.
Nice.
Something.
So it can really make a difference. And then, yesterday we landed all the crate and barrels here in Southern California, which is big.
Wow, big account.
And that was with assistance from the corporate office from Fish Window Cleaning Headquarters.
That's fantastic. It's nice to get those phone calls.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is.
Just a quick question about insurance. I imagine, this is not, workers always being on the ground floor when they have to go up. Is that a pretty big expense, insurance, being that sometimes your workers have to climb ladders and steps and everything?
That's definitely a factor. We don't run into the really high code for the workers' comp is in the high rise. We're three story and below, so we don't do anything from the roof down. We do everything from the ground up. Right. So that helps a little bit there. But and this will vary across the country. California is one of the more expensive, but like for us currently right now, as a percentage of payroll, we're paying 13.5% for workers' comp.
Okay.
Which is
whereas,
quite a bit more.
In other states, there are several other states that are 3%, 4%, 5%.
Right.
So you factor those things into your pricing, and you maintain your profitability. So.
Your typical day at Fish Window. You guys are big franchisees. I imagine you have a pretty set system.
Yeah, if anything, we definitely are very structured and organized, more so than most, but that's part of our success.
Yeah.
We come in the mornings between 6 and 6:30. Our guys start arriving between 6:30 and 7, and basically I start the check-in process. So the guys hand me their work from the previous day.
Yeah.
I check them all in on our on the Fish system, on the computer system, and Chad hands out routes. So, here you go, Tom. You're going to be in Newport Beach today. See you later. maybe he'll go over a couple special jobs, or hey, you're going to be, in Costa Mesa today, and you have, the mall and then a house in the afternoon, or
right.
Whatever it may be. And then the guys usually are out of here by between 7 and 7:45 at the latest. Sometimes we're going over stuff, or they're doing something with their equipment or changing out, whatever. But they're all usually gone by 7:45 at the latest. And then we don't see any of our guys until the next day. Sometimes we'll give them 2 days' worth of work.
Right.
So then right about then is when Chad and I, we each go to our desks. He handles like payroll, accounting. I do proposals, pictures. We each kind of have our separate duties that we do together, and then we kind of each have like he does QuickBooks. I don't touch QuickBooks unless he's on vacation.
Yeah.
So we each kind of have our own niche that we do, and then we work together on other stuff like, okay, are you done with your stuff? Hey, can you enter these 2 jobs or whatever?
We'll work on a proposal pricing on a big job together.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Our typical day, though, starts with we trade off once a week. I pick him up and we carpool in together, and then the other week he picks me up and we carpool in together. We spend every day together.
Man, these partners are better than us, Marty.
Yeah, they are.
I'm a little jealous of your partnership there.
We drive
have
in
a lot of time carpooling together.
Yeah.
So that's
and when we're in the car, we're talking business usually, or talking about proposals or things like that. And then we try to get out of here by about 10 to 10:30 in the morning, and then we go out, usually do a few estimates.
Yeah.
And then we always eat a nice lunch together. We always sit down at like a Red Robin or a place like that.
Right.
We always eat lunch together. We usually talk business or sports or what was on TV the night before. And
that's what you need in a successful partnership, that communication. So you got to keep it going.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's been a big thing. Is you say, well, God, how can you spend that much time with you're spending so much time together, and we are, and sometimes it's like, especially when we come back from like a convention or something, it's like, dude, I've seen you every day all day for the past like 14 days, and you're great.
Oh, that's funny.
So you go through those times where you're like, man, I just need some alone time or whatever. But having, being together, being able to talk through anything that's going on, in the day, and really helps you to be on the same page. You have time to talk through any disagreements that you might have, or how you might handle a proposal or an estimate or a problem on a job. You get on the same page, and then when it's time to deal with that issue, you're both on the same page, and there's no stepping on toes and that type of thing. So
business, you can never be satisfied. You can never just reach a comfort level, and there's always room for improvement and doing bigger and better things and growth. So I'm sure that's what you're talking about a lot.
When we first started, we had a laptop with a wireless internet connection, and if he was driving, the office phones were forwarded to my cell phone, and I had the laptop on my lap. I'm entering jobs. I'm mapping us to the next cold call location we're going to. We had cleaning equipment in the back. We were doing it all, And when I was driving, he was doing everything because we wanted a live voice, getting someone calling, getting a live voice. And since then we've grown into 2 office staff, 2 sales guys, Chad and I, and 10 window cleaners.
Wow.
It's fantastic.
Nice.
Great story, yeah. Chad and Chris, we have about 30 seconds. What's the best way for someone to get more information on your services, your franchise, or franchise information on Fish Window?
Well, the fishwindowcleaning.com is the website for the franchise itself.
That's a great website, by the way, too.
Yeah,
very nice.
There's information there on how to find your local fish window cleaning office as far as service, and there's also information there if you're interested in purchasing a franchise territory.
Okay, good. And you guys want to give out your number too as well?
714-632-7510.
And I want to thank you guys again. You guys have been fantastic. I think this was one of my favorite interviews, huh, Don? We've had a lot of big, names on the show, so you guys are fantastic. And
awesome. You guys got a great program running. We're excited to be invited on it.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much. And we're going to have you back in another 6 months or so and just watch you guys continue to grow.
Let us know anytime.
Thanks, Chad and Chris.
Great job.
Great job. Great show, huh, Don?
Yeah.
I mean, just again, this was one of my favorite shows. I mean, having two franchisees and
right.
I mean, just getting into the whole partnership thing, and they really understand what franchising is all about.
Yeah, that's why when I met him down in Orlando, I was just very impressed. I knew it would be an interesting show because it's just interesting seeing how people go about choosing the franchise, their due diligence, starting out, going through training, and look at the nice team they make and how their business is growing, and they're following the system. They had the right attitude and the passion and the work ethic to go out and make this work. And now, what is this, their 5th year, I think they were saying?
I think it is, yeah. I mean, it's just, and I think they definitely chose the right franchise, didn't they? I mean, it just seems like a perfect match for them, doesn't it?
They went through the franchise consulting company where that makes them think about all these questions you might not think of if you're just looking for a franchise investment on your own.
Exactly. I mean, look at it's the quality of life that they have now, and I think,
right.
Family is important to, both of these gentlemen, so and it sounds like they have a great time, working together as well,
right.
which is just so important, So I just thought it was a fantastic show. This was definitely one of my favorites. We've been doing the show now. God, this is probably like our 70th
right.
show up to this point,
yeah.
So it's just really
Same
a
here.
great
Hard work.
show.
We're going to continue doing well.
Absolutely. These guys are going to be very successful, so we'll have to, keep a close eye on them and watch their success and have them back in another 6 months,
Right. Definitely.
But great show, Don. And again, next week we have, who's up next week?
Glenn Franson, Massage Heights.
That's right. That should be another interesting show, So, and go to franchiseinterviews.com, subscribe to our newsletter if you're listening for the first time. And what else, Don? What are the websites?
Well, there's gofranchise.com.
There you go. It's a great website.
Get pre-qualified for financing, learn your loan potential. You can go to franchisefunding.net.
Another great one. So great job, Don, and I'll see you next week.
Take care, Marty.
Take care, Don.
Bye-bye.